Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I welcome you to our YouTube channel, Arali Media. We are always there to give you the best of entertainment and news and whatsoever. Yeah, today we are going to look at the richest African countries in 2022. Richest African countries 2022 according to the World Population Review. Yeah, let us go down like that. In case you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing and hit on that notification bell so that whenever we post anything, then you get notified. Let us start from here. Many of the world's poorest nations are in Africa. Numerous African economies are unstable, poverty is widespread, and poor access to vaccine is slowing the entire continent's recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. Moreover, many African countries, including Cameroon, Chad, Nigeria, Somalia, and are currently at war with either terrorist insurgencies or one another, which puts further strain on their economies. Despite these challenges, Africa's 54 countries include some of the fastest growing economies in the world. The African economy is expected to reach a GDP of 29 trillion shillings by 2050, powered by its agriculture, trade, and natural resources sector. The region has an eager and expanding workforce with 20 million new job seekers a year in sub-Saharan Africa alone. Africans are starting to catch up with the rest of the world technologically as well. Every day, more than 90,000 residents of sub-Saharan Africa log on to the internet for the first time. Africa might be the least developed of the major continents. Even the richest African countries lag far behind the wealthiest countries in the world, but its potential is both substantial and undeniable. So please subscribe to the channel. We are looking at the richest country. Let us first look at using the gross domestic product, that is the GDP, to measure the wealth of African countries. While there are several ways to compare various nations' wealth, one of the best methods to evaluate each country's gross domestic product, or GDP, this is the value of all goods and services produced by a nation in a given year. To make country-to-country comparison more precise, GDP is often first adjusted for purchasing power parity, that is PPP, which modifies each country's GDP relative to local prices and expressed in fictional currency called international dollars, INT. According to the International Monetary Fund, the 4 top African countries posted GDPs of more than $500 billion in 2020, that is 2020. Top 10 richest African countries by overall GDP, that is INT and at PPP, International Monetary Fund, 2021. Egypt had $1.38 trillion, Nigeria had $1.14 trillion, South Africa had $861.93 billion, Algeria has had $532.57 billion, Morocco had $302.77 billion, Ethiopia had $293.57 billion, Kenya had $269.29 billion, Angola stands at number 8 with $217.97 billion, Ghana number 9 stands at $193.63 billion, then Sudan at number 10 stands at $189.87 billion. That is the top 10 African richest country. Now, in terms of total GDP, INT, Egypt wins out as the richest country in Africa for 2021. With 104 million people, Egypt is Africa's third most populous country. Egypt is also a mixed economy, strong in tourism, agriculture, and fossil fuels, with an emerging information and communication technology sector. Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa with 211 million residents, nearly twice the population of Egypt, contributing to its GDP. Nigeria is a lower middle income mixed economy focused upon petroleum, to a lesser extent agriculture. It is also an emerging market with growing financial, service, communication, and technology sector. Now, GDP per capita offers additional insight into African economies. Although GDP is an extremely valuable metric, it is also quite broad. For example, it disregards the number of citizens contributing to a country's GDP, which means a country with a vast but less effective workforce can post a higher GDP than a country with a smaller but efficient workforce. To get a more granular look at this and other factors, economists often turn to GDP per capita, which divides gross domestic product by the number of people in the country. Richest African countries by GDP per capita. This is by the World Bank 2021. Number 1 is Seychelles, which has $30,883 million. Mauritius has $23,841. Equatorial Guinea has $18,625 million. Botswana has $18,505. Libya is at $15,816. Gabon is at $15,582. South Africa is at $13,010. Egypt is at $12,261. Algeria is at $11,997. Then Tunisia is at $11,096. Switching to the measurement to GDP per capita has a significant impact on the list of Africa's richest countries. Seychelles is the richest country when using this metric. The Seychelles economy is primarily driven by fishing, tourism, boat building, processing coconuts and vanilla, and agriculture, especially cinnamon, sweet potatoes, tuna, and banana. Its public sector contributes the most employment and gross revenue, employing 2/3 of the total labor force. Although Egypt has the highest total GDP of any African country, it ranks only 8th in terms of GDP per capita. What's more, Nigeria doesn't even make the new list. In fact, it's in 22nd place. Now let us look at the gross national income, GNI, of African economies. A final metric often used by economists to compare the wealth of different countries is gross national income. Call it GNI. While GDP measures the value of the goods and services in a country creates, GNI measures the total income obtained through those goods and services. GNI also tracks money that enters or exits the country's economy as part of international business activities. This makes GNI a bit better at avoiding the artificially inflated totals that can distort the GDP of a country that are known internationally tax shelters. Now, let us look at the richest African countries by GNI per capita. This is according to World Bank in 2021. Number 1 is Seychelles. Seychelles stands at $12,720. Mauritius stands at $10,230. Gabon stands at $6,970. Botswana stands at $6,640. Equatorial Guinea stands at $5,810. South Africa stands at $5,410. Libya stands at $4,850. Then Namibia stands at $4,520. Eswatini stands at $3,580. Then Algeria stands at $3,550. Once again, Seychelles ranks first, with Mauritius close behind, and countries including Botswana, Libya, Equatorial Guinea, and Gabon slotting in underneath. However, Egypt, which had the highest overall GDP in all of Africa, has fallen completely out of the top 10. It's actually 15th. Viewed on a global scale, even Africa's richest nations pale in comparison to those on most other continents. The average GNI per capita in North America is $62,367, and the European Union's average GNI per capita is $34,081. However, Seychelles is ahead of the global average of $11,057, and several other African countries have the potential to meet and exceed that goal as well. Here are the 10 richest countries in Africa. Now this is the general perspective now. Nigeria is the richest African country here, as listed, with 514.05 billion. Egypt the second with 334.29 billion, that is US dollars. South Africa with 329.53 billion. Algeria with 151.46 billion. Morocco with 129 billion. Kenya with 106.04 billion. Ethiopia with 93.97 billion. Ghana with 97.26 billion. Then Ivory Coast with 70.99 billion, and Angola with $66.49 billion. So those are the richest African countries in the whole of Africa. You get a point? That's all. Otherwise, in case you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and make sure you like.